Hello and welcome everyone to the Wednesday, January 17th edition of the SIG Contributor Experience meeting. A reminder that we do operate under a code of conduct, which essentially says to be respectful of your fellow speakers and attendees and generally be excellent to each other. Do we usually try to offer an opportunity for new folks to introduce themselves on this call? What do folks think? Do we want to do introductions for everyone today? We have like everybody today, so maybe it's good to do a round of introductions. Think we're good, Bob? We also don't have to take the time to. I think most folks know each other on the call. There's one
Hello,
new person, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
hello everyone. I'm new here. Actually, I'm exploring different SIGs, so I came here to know like what is going on. Yeah, that's it. I'm a final year student from India. Thank you.
Welcome. Wonderful to have you. Let's do a quick round of introductions for everyone then, since we have a lot of awesome folks on the call today. Um, Hi, I'm Caslin. I'm one of the co-chairs of SIG ContribEx, and I'm also a co-lead of the contributor comm sub-project, which we'll talk more about our sub-projects and stuff later, I think. I'll pass it over to Madhav.
I'm one of the tech leads for ContribEx, but along with Priyanka. I help out with GitHub automation and anything else that needs help with, or at least I try to. Uh, but yeah, keeping it short. Priyanka, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Priyanka Saku. I'm also one of the technical leads for SIG ContribEx. I'm also involved in SIG release. I've led 129 release cycle. And I'm also one of the GitHub admins with Madhav and few other folks in the team, in the call. I'll pass to Nabarun.
Hey everyone, I'm Nabarun. I am one of the co-chairs for SIG Contributor Experience, and I'm also one of the Kubernetes steering committee members. And I'm usually around like a few other areas like SIGAuth, GitHub admin, and SIG release. Oh wait, we are just passing the
Yes.
mic.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hey, I'm Chris Short. I am a longtime contributor here on ContribEx, and I am also the co-lead of Contributor Comms, which is a sub-project of Contributor Experience. Nice to meet y'all. Because, yeah, let's go with Xander.
Hello, I'm Xander. I am a open source PM at Microsoft. For ContribEx, I'm currently one of the co-leads for the Contributor Summit at the KubeCon EU event, which is frighteningly soon. Outside of that, I also do a little bit of work with SIG Release and SIG Auth and SIG Docs. So yeah, I'm around. Yeah, nice to be here. I will pass to Bob.
Hello, I'm Bob Killen, known as Mr. Bobby Tables across all the things. I'm a former chair of Contributor Experience, and I am still currently a member of the Kubernetes Steering Committee. And I'm kind of involved in various places throughout the project. I will pass it to Mario.
Hi, I'm Mario. I am a member in SIG KS Infra and SIG ContribEx and SIG ContribEx Comms, and I help where help is needed, especially if it comes also to some automation stuff and project planning and getting people there where people need to be. And I will pass to Laura.
Thank you very much. My name is Laura Santa Maria. I'm a lead developer advocate at Dell and a member of SIG ContribEx, and mostly just here because I haven't, I've been a little busy doing a lot of other things. I used to help run the community meeting, and then after that, I was just the meet and greet, which we're now calling Meet the Kubernetes Contributor Community. I was just the chair for that for the last Contributor Summit. But mostly, I'm just here. So, and I think I'm the last one on the list to introduce. So I'm going to kick it back to whoever who wants to take the mic.
I guess I'll
Caslin.
go. One other housekeeping item. Anybody particularly want to be the note taker today?
I can.
Cool. It's often kind of a group effort, but it's nice to have someone who's focused on trying to do it. Awesome. Thank you, Mario. Alrighty. So we handled code of conduct and intros. So we can jump into the regular agenda, but also myself and the co-chairs and the tech leads were discussing possibly going through some working items and priorities for the SIG this year. Do we want to go ahead and do that? Do we want to do it at the end? We didn't really talk about that earlier, so opinions, folks?
I think we can maybe run down the projects list
The
and
regular
then
agenda, do it at the end.
based on the discussion, we can probably see how to take it forward for the next time in
Okay,
terms of
sounds good.
prioritizing at least.
Yeah. Cool. So over the next few meetings, we'll try to discuss some of the open action items and priorities for the SIG going into 2024. But let's dive into our regular agenda then. The first thing on the list is events. Let's talk about the Contributor Summit. Xander.
Yes, Contributor Summit is going well so far. I continue to be not stressed about it, which feels like a win. I know, like I've said, I think the stress will come. It will arrive, but every further week that we make it without it having arrived is a win to me. So we're still winning at the moment. We've got the location for the event sorted. We've got the CFP open. Comms have been sent out for that. There will be an additional set of comms after the KubeCon talk of acceptances and rejections go out. I think at that point, folks will have a better idea of what kind of travel funding they're going to have. So yeah, I think we're putting together some staff swag, and then we're still waiting on CNCF to know what the venue for the social is going to be. But yes, things are coming together. We're all green so far.
I like that. It's like a release team meeting. That is one item that does need to have a status. Though we don't normally do that. I feel like that should be a thing now. Excellent. Anything else folks want to talk about with the Contributor Summit? We do have a couple of leads and folks who are involved here. I know I want to talk with you, Laura, on Slack about the thing definitely not called meet and greet stuff. So we'll talk more with you later about that. We don't need to spend this time on that. Any questions about the Contributor Summit? One thing that I do keep getting asked is about volunteering. We do have leads sorted. We pretty much have shadows sorted. If you are going to be on site and you want to volunteer on site, Mario here is our lead for that. And we can always use more help, I think, with on-site volunteers. So do let the summit staff know. There's a summit staff channel in Slack. So you can always let us know in there. And there's, of course, the issue where you can volunteer there. Mario.
Yeah, so feel free. We need a couple of volunteers. Also, volunteering is not so much of a time, so you will be still able to attend sessions. So it's we basically also plan to shift people around, and the more volunteers we have, the easier, the less responsibilities it is for each person, so that you also have some spare time to enjoy the event in itself. So always happy to have folks around. just ping me in Slack. My Slack handle I will put in chat. Or you can go to the Contrib Summit channels or stuff channel.
Thank you, Mara, for taking notes there. I got in the way, but thank you. Yes, do go ahead and ping Mario about that if you want to help out. All right. And do share the CFP because the CFP is open now. We need contributors submitting topics that they want to talk about. So what is the deadline on that, by the way? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
Ooh,
I think it's in
no.
February.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
first
there's
or
still
second week of February.
second week of February, I think, and there's still plenty of time after the CFP, after the notifications from KubeCon goes out. So.
Yeah, good point. Excellent. Let's move on from the contributor summit then, unless anybody else has any. Cool. Mentoring. Any updates there? I've been seeing some updates from the CNCF about mentoring cohorts starting up, but any updates in here from folks connected to that? Sounds like no. So I know that CNCF has like a Google Summer of Code thing, and I think LFX is starting up again. But I'm not particularly involved with those. I know that they've got the call for projects out for Summer of Code, I think. So if folks know folks within the community who want to submit projects to that, I assume that we can, and I can look into that for folks if anybody is particularly interested in running a project for one of those mentoring programs.
I think callouts are also open for Outreachy as well. So that's another place. I don't know if Kubernetes participate at this point. Yeah.
Good to know. We can note that. So these are external mentoring programs. I'm going to list them here. Outreachy, Google Summer of Code. I know that one's active, and then LFX question mark. I think that one's open as well, or starting up as well. CNCF has been putting out some calls for help. Not that I have more information, but I will find more information if you ping me. Cool. So we'll move on from mentoring. Let's talk about contributor comms. Anyone here from that group today?
No.
Never gets old. Never gets old.
I'm just gonna answer no. Various ways of saying no.
Very good.
Yeah. So we have sent out. Thank you, Mario, for drafting the tweet/toot on the apps and yum repo changes, or not repo changes, packages case.io changes.
I think repo change is a way of saying it. I
I
keep
mean,
debating that, but I think it's
it's
accurate.
weird. Whatever
It is technically,
packages.
but people assume GitHub when you say repo.
Right. Or they assume
True.
something completely
It's very
different.
confusing.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways,
the
package holder things.
yes, the holder of
Linux.
package thing, Linux package distribution. So we're waiting on the blog post. Plan to be released on Mario. You want to update us on that at all when you're done typing?
I can also talk. Yeah, so we were basically asked if we can write a blog post about how to build your own packages. We aim to do the language that is written when the old package repositories are gone. So it's basically like, oh no, now it's gone, but hey, you can build your own packages with this small Docker container that basically spits out final packages. But
That's
easier
awesome.
would be update your clusters. So
Mm-hmm.
we want to make it as annoying to do this as possible to force people to update to actually supported Kubernetes versions.
That is an important thing that's going on. If you aren't familiar with it, go check out Kubernetes.io. There's a banner about it at the top. And we're also sharing links to the existing blog post on social media. We're working on an updated blog post with more detail on mitigation steps. But what's happening is that the old repos where we hosted Kubernetes images are going away, and we have a new repo where new images are being hosted, which is community owned rather than vendor owned. So
Yes.
Just a quick question. Are the old package repos gone already? Because we
they're
do not
frozen.
They
have.
So yeah.
so they were frozen last year and they were not getting any new updates.
Yeah.
In
And
September, they
yep.
were frozen.
And essentially at that point, we basically said they could go away tomorrow. We don't have an exact timeline on that. And the timeline we got is that they will go away sometime in January. So
which is now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that January timeline, I wanted to just check, like, are they already gone? Or that's still not
They are still here.
has.
So
They're still
they
around.
are still around,
Okay.
and we know that we have. So from our side, we have folks that are desperately.
Your robot, Mario, by the way.
You're breaking up, Mario.
Are you on Bluetooth by chance? No? Okay. I don't know. That's weird.
The
We're waiting on
essentially,
Google,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
The service that they are hosted on is fully deprecated. So that's sort
At
of
some
that.
point, they will not be available, but we don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
Right.
Just know the timeline is this month.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
And folks who are affected by this are folks running their own clusters. If you're on like a managed service, those managed services should be able to take care of that for you. But if you're running your own clusters at home or in a cloud or wherever, you need to make sure that you're pulling from the right repo for your Kubernetes images.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Older than 1.24 and running your own stuff. Yeah. Good point. How does that work actually with the older than 1.24 part? Because I know if you're older than 1.24, you're on the old ones. If you're newer than, I guess then you would have to be on the new one. So that's why. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Had to work through that logic for a second.
It's early.
I had a meeting at 7:30 this morning. Mario.
Yeah, I try it again. I hope I'm not breaking up. So basically, if you have an older version, and you need to do in between updates, which you probably need to do, then you would run into the issue that you won't get packages anymore, and that's basically the only case. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very good. So other updates from comms. Your hand is still up, by the way, Mario. We're still waiting for news about the Kubernetes IO. I shouldn't say .io. The Kubernetes IO account on Zitter. For context, that stopped updating in April last year, and we're trying to figure out from the CNCF exactly what's going on with that, and if we need to take that over. We are prepared if we do, but just waiting on final word on that. We also are trying to get control of some Kubernetes pages on LinkedIn. There are a couple that already exist and we don't know who owns them. So we're going to have to go through the LinkedIn processes to claim ownership of them. So looking into that. And there's also a new Spotlight blog post out on SIG release. So just some quick updates from us. Any questions or comments about comms or any of these things that we've talked about? You can always find us in Slack in the SIG ContribEx comms channel. So if you need any comms at any time, let us know. We'll move on from that to contributor documentation. Any updates there? Nothing new. Sounds good. We'll move on. Moderation and media. Are any moderation and media folks on, and are there any updates that we want to talk about? Like Zoom, YouTube, Slack.
Actually, for the contributor documentation, does anyone know, or because I don't think I recall properly, but does anyone know what happened to the code spaces work that was
Oh,
It's
going
still
on?
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Right.
got the most up-to-date stuff, Chris?
No, I mean, I don't like. I have not heard from Greg on this in quite some time. Yeah, it's just there.
He mentioned it at the ContribEx, or not at the at the contributor summit. He mentioned like he's still working on it. I think very slowly in between things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the contributor guide exists. It just doesn't have the code spaces stuff because that still hasn't been sorted out. We bring that up basically every week in comms.
Is there someone else who is working with Craig as well? Just pairing with him? Or
I think it's
he's on
just
it?
Craig.
There
At least
there
he's
was
the lead of it.
there was
Yeah.
someone working with him. They did their own thing and then brought it back and essentially just like, we don't want to adopt that much of that thing, and
Gotcha.
so on.
There's a lot of trickiness with GitHub and Kubernetes because we're so big and we have so many
Yeah.
processes.
Is this a thing that we're ever gonna like fix, adopt? Should we just stop asking about it? I mean, what do you
Just
think, Bob?
honestly, if someone else wants to pick it up, go for it. It's essentially
A help wanted.
help
Perhaps?
wanted, but need to know your thing and be able to talk to the various people involved.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe we should spec that out and
yeah,
put together what that call should look like.
can bring that up in the backlog grooming type thing at the end of the call.
Sounds good.
So
Sounds good.
I was literally like dragging towards that. If Craig can get someone up, maybe in a call or two, and they can like move it forward.
That's true. We could discuss that in greater depth with Craig on a future call. Talk with him and make sure that he's on to talk about it. That sounds like a good plan. Cool. All right then. And it sounded like nobody's on for moderation and media.
I will say
So-
one thing on Nigel's behalf. We are meeting
Yeah.
on Friday morning to talk about all things automation. So, yeah. Tech leads
Cool.
and so forth. If you're not invited, please let me know.
Sounds good. So next one, GitHub management. It's like there's a couple of things there. Who wants to start? Looks like Madhav.
Yeah, so I think there are three in total, but the last two are more of an FYI, like this is something that's out there. Take a look when you can. But the first one is probably something that's worth talking about here. So Tim Allclair, so he's the person who also worked on the new auto close automation stuff, so that
Process.
the
Yeah.
the newer time periods for that. So he has a PR open which basically says, so right now every PR that's open on Kubernetes or almost any repo, depending on what the configuration is, has a needs triage label, and someone comes and triages the PR or issue, and that label is removed. But that label is removed only when triage accepted is put on, and we have a bunch of triage labels, and that sort of messes with like what's consistent here because the description of one label is different from what something else says. So he has it open to remove the label when any of the triage labels are applied. This doesn't affect the autoclose workflows as such. So this PR has been open for about a week now. So if folks can go take a look, provide feedback if you have any, that'd be great. I've already commented on the PR, but if at all you can take a look and see if there's anything else that you want to talk about, that'd be great.
And Priyanka has a hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking like right now the PR ad changes basically if any triage slash label other than triage accepted will be added, it will remove triage uh, needs triage label. Um, but there is a label, I think, triage slash needs information that do require that. I think these issues to stay in the triage queue um, can be. I mean, I just wanted to just, understand from other people what do they think about it. Do we need to keep the needs triage label on an issue if um, needs information is there? Because that is basically we are waiting for somebody to add some more information before triaging it. That's what I think. But I mean,
No, yeah,
suggestions.
that that makes sense. But so in my head, the only way I've looked at it so far is if I apply a needs information label, that's triaging in itself. But if you're saying there is automation that sort of manages these queues based on that particular label, then that's something to look at.
Yeah, that's what I understood from the description of that PR. Tim is mentioning that they want to clean their triage queue.
Yeah.
And if we apply needs information, that means that will be going out of the triage queue. So, but that still needs to be triaged. So, and I think I don't recall. You only have link to some triage related documentation we have. Um, Part of the description of needs information, I think, says something on the lines if we do not get a response back with more information in, let's say, 10 days or 20 days from the time it's applied, then we remove that. So it still needs to be in triage queue. I think
Got it.
that's what the
Yeah.
documentation says.
Yeah. Can you comment this if
Yeah,
possible?
yeah. If
Yeah.
you okay with this, I can.
Yeah,
I will.
that makes sense. Mhm. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments, clarifications for this one? Okay, sounds good. The next one is so I had this PR open for a while now, but that's just like to sort of drive discussion. I don't know where or if it's headed anywhere. So one of the problems with owner's alias, so owner's aliases right now is if I change something in an owner's alias and that alias is mentioned in some owner's file elsewhere, everyone gets access automatically, irrespective of if they meet reviewer or approver requirements to begin with. Um, so although it provides like a nice convenient way to give access, it can also lead to elevated access in a lot of cases. So I had this plugin written for Brow that sort of warns you when you're changing owners aliases and tells you what owners files any of these aliases are present in so that you can go take a look and make sure that you're changing the right ones. I think Priyanka asked me to bring this up here. I had brought up on
Yeah.
Slack.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to get like an idea of what this PR is actually trying to do. I did
Mhm.
not have this context. So maybe confirming again, is it just to add those warnings so that somebody who is making changes in owner areas make informed changes or more
Yeah.
than that?
So yeah, it so it looks at what owner alias was changed. Then it looks at where that owner alias is present in what owner's files, and then based on that, it sort of comments that um, you know this is where that owner's alias is present. You might want to be careful about it. That's what it does.
Good. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted some context before I
Mhm.
can review it. I'll give it some time. Yeah, and get back to you
Sounds
on the
sounds
peer.
good. Okay. And the last one is, so we've been seeing a lot of asks and just in general activity around using Prow, but for GitHub Actions. That makes me a little scared, but also I think it's a nice sort of opportunity for us to enforce some policies. So I've been sort of poking around what that might look like. And while doing that, I came across like a few corner cases, which I think even Priyanka pointed out in some prior bug that we were fixing. So in general, improving the ContribEx or like contributor experience of using GitHub Actions with Prow. I think GitHub Actions, at least for some time, will be there in the community. So might as well try and understand them better of how do we make them work well with Prow, for example. So that's what the last one is about. I think someone's already working on it.
Looks like
But
Avinash.
if
Have you talked with Avinash yet?
I have, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But if anyone's interested in this sort of thing, reach out on the ContribEx channel. And there's always more work with things like this. So yeah, just let me know.
I have a question, not so much related to this particular issue, but in general about GitHub Actions for our projects. What do we really suggest to our sub projects? Because I know we have GitHub Actions enabled on all our orgs by default, I think. Kubernetes SIGs and Kubernetes. I'm not very much sure about Kubernetes org though. Do we recommend like say yes, okay, you can go ahead and use GitHub Actions? Because I know that we had a few past incidents with respect to security concerns while using GitHub Actions. So, what do we really recommend to people who are maybe asking us for suggestions with respect to using GitHub Actions or not?
Bob and Nabarun have hands up.
Broadly, I'd say we prefer Prow if at all possible. Actions, I don't think we actually have a true policy on it so far, but it has been a security issue in the past, and we probably do need to get some like guidance around that. Nabrun?
Yeah, basically same thoughts. We have a to-do item to discuss it amongst KDS Infra, GitHub admins to figure out what's the policy for allowing GitHub Actions and to use it. But I do agree with the general sentiment that if it can be done on Prow, do it on Prow and not to use GitHub Actions.
Yeah, correct. The concern was more on like we do get these requests and we end up enabling, or it's already enabled by default, so people do use it. Yeah, but anyway, that's helpful.
Also,
Thank you.
there's one more concern on that front that the HCD org is using GitHub Actions at this point, and they use a lot of I think large ARM runners as well that we need to figure out as a policy. Like this is most a admin thing.
Yeah, we have a option for that. We just haven't like had time to pursue it yet. I forget the name of the service, but the CNCF has a deal with it. Essentially, it consumes Equinix as a GitHub runner, and it's free for us.
Mario.
Yeah. So maybe as someone that actually uses GitHub Actions in the one of the sub projects, I think it would be beneficial to have the possibility to use it because it's fast to use. It's like but in a restricted way. I had a chat with Bob regarding because we needed something for the last weeks in Kubernetes development and to quickly automate stuff and basically create pull requests or create commits, and then we basically got down to this. We just create pull requests, so then it's a double check that from the automation that still needs to be reviewed. I would vote for my opinion would be if we have some policies, but I would not outright say like don't use it, but because it's easy to maintain also, and it's easy for people to get into. We just need policies to restrict it.
Bob mentioned in the chat that we essentially need a good okay to test for actions. I think that's a good way to frame it.
Yeah, there are things out there. Again, I think it's just we don't have any best practices written. It's kind of like too many things to actually do it.
Yeah, I think somebody wrote a GitHub action to implement that OK to test functionality. If I remember, somebody took Prow as an example and did it sometime back.
They also it's okay to test and then the commit, so it does it for every single commit.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, discussion on those various GitHub management items?
I'm good since I asked the question. Yeah.
Thank you. Good to ask questions. These are important things that are happening in the community that affect a lot of people. So it's good that we get to discuss them. Cool. Thank you, Mario, for taking notes so quickly and adding in the links and everything. Well, a couple of extra links there. Much appreciated. So the next item on the list is elections. Josh isn't here and we're pretty far from the election cycle. So I think it's pretty safe to say that there's probably no updates there. Cool. And Nigel did hop in. So if we could pop back for just a second to moderation and media, is there anything that you wanted to talk about there, Nigel? Chris mentioned that you all have a meeting later this week. So
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna go over the current state of automation on Friday. So there's a short meeting that we have scheduled for that. Other than that, everything is going as it should be. Wondering if we're gonna make and how we're gonna make an effort to get more folks onto the YouTube automation. But for the most part, everything's kind of taken over smoothly.
that is an interesting point. I guess we can discuss that more next time, maybe?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Alrighty then. I think that brings us to the open mic discussion where we were going to discuss backlog grooming, and we do have 15 minutes left, so I think we can do that. Now, Bruin, would you like to lead that discussion?
I was wondering, do we have enough time to do the entire backlog grooming, or
I mean,
what
we
do?
have 15 minutes.
We wouldn't. I can tell you right now, we would not have time to go through
Yeah.
the back. We pretty much need to have a dedicated
Yeah.
meeting for that.
Yeah.
So I
But
was wondering, can we? Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, but can highlight some of the, like, if we wanted to, can highlight the bigger items that do need to be addressed.
Yeah. So I was wondering, like, since there are people from like various sub-projects in ContribEx, if we can do some sort of like whiteboard sketching session here, like if people can go ahead and tell like what are the prime priorities inside their sub-project, then we can write it down in the doc and can discuss those as well in the future meetings. Does that sound good, everyone?
I think for comms, we kind of covered it. We have a few other backlog items that are not high priority, but
Yeah.
Maybe like, oh yeah, I've never used the Slack whiteboard feature. I was just say people can
Oh yeah.
dump there in the notes.
Yeah, I was wondering just to dump in the notes, not any fancy tool.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm always curious what I'll find in the backlog. It's quite an adventure always.
Because we have like 139 issues plus PRs open to go through, and that will certainly take a lot of time.
Exactly. Bob is putting a few items in. Thank you, Bob, for knowing things and sharing things.
Thank you for sharing, Bob. We appreciate it. All the things.
The first one here is interesting. I know we were discussing that in the leads chat. Configure a shared drive for all SIGs. Guess that's a backlog item.
Yeah.
Migrating users to mailing lists always. Go ahead, Bob.
Ideally, for the shared drive, ContribEx sorts that out, and then steering can provision it. The thing that I think would be good would be to use that as a carrot for more groups to get over onto the Kubernetes mailing lists that are managed, but need to actually sort out the best path for that, which I think we have. It just basically means SIG's working with me and Nabrun to basically populate them via our magic SC powers. But need to actually like write that down someplace, or at least, you know what I mean.
So the current status is that SIGs generally have their own drives, but is there not a higher level than that?
They do not have their own drive. It's only a couple groups have their
yeah.
own folder.
A few of them.
And
okay. Yeah.
Those are managed under a shared account. The problem is like that has other caveats. So having an actual shared drive would be useful, especially because like the simple thing, like it being there and not losing the share,
Right.
the shared folder.
All right. I'm sure we'll continue to discuss that on Slack. Maybe bring that up again next time as well. Migrating. Oh, go ahead.
For the topics that we discuss right now, shall we just discuss and decide on a person who can run that action item so that there is a clear ownership on each of these?
Well, for the drive, it's something that we're going to have to work with steering on, and it basically needs to be one of the four of us, right, that pushes it forward. Maybe all four of us.
The big thing is just thinking through what potential options are in terms of drive or folder schema.
Permissions, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
It's like, do you want one big shared drive, or does each SIG group get its own drive? And like, would that complicate things for, YouTube and dumping things to a place, or management? And we usually have a separate folder or a separate thing for leads, so leads can have some private documents. So just talking through and thinking through a bunch of that.
That's tough.
Yeah, and Google Drive structure, it seems to be a mystery unto itself.
So yeah, set some time aside next meeting or something and collectively talk through it.
Makes sense.
And for the next one, migrating users to mailing lists, that's been an ongoing thing. I know the last status of that was that, Bob, you were working on migrating 1 or 2 groups, and you were going to create a guide from that. How's that effort going? Oh, and also Priyanka has a hand up, but
yeah, go
Bob,
for
you
it.
can go ahead. Oh,
Okay.
I was just going to bring up the PR that we try to write, just extending our existing, I think, groups or whatever tool that we have to maintain the mailing list, just to add some functionality to actually migrate users as well. That is still open. It had a few review items, mostly, I think, questions with respect to I don't know. There, I'm not too much up to date. It was in September, I think, last time I worked on it. I'll just put a link. If we can do some reviewing on it and have it merged, let's say in a month or so, or I don't know, before that, I can add the brow job and we can do it. Or the other thing we were discussing that time, Bob, that it's a one-time thing, and finite number of migrations. So if steering can help us there, that's also another option.
Thank you. Useful context. Bob, are there things that you want to add? Is that good?
I think that's fine.
Okay, cool. So that link is in the doc somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Priyanka, for sharing that link. So we should look at that for some automation around this process. But the guides, I guess,
That's still largely on
work in
me.
progress.
If we don't have that's on me.
Do you want it to be on you? Do you need to
Yeah, do you need to offload?
delegate?
At this point, like I can at least draft a short thing. I have the majority of the documentation. It's in chat. It's just basically following through and getting the rest of the stuff done.
I know there were pieces of it around, but just kind of gathering everything in one place because there's quite a bit of context, I think, involved with at least getting the guide started. So, all right. Sounds good. The next item that Bob added, thank you, is document policy and setup for 1Password. Yeah, so we do have a 1Password, by the way, is SIG ContribEx, which the co-chairs have access to. There's at least 1 or 2 items for comms that are in the 1Password, and that was something that I had thought about before is like, how do we manage access to that and stuff? So there's a discussion
It's mostly
to be
like,
had there.
yeah. We have the keys to everyone's secrets. Not just ContribEx. It's everything that's in 1Password. So that's what the policy is needed for. And essentially have a team like the GitHub admins or something like that to basically manage the provisioning and grooming of that sort of things. Like anytime there's a leadership change, add, remove people in there, etc. But it has to be highly trusted individuals because just like the GitHub admins, theoretically they have the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
So essentially drafting something like the GitHub admin stuff but for 1Password.
Indeed. That is an important thing for us to discuss. Which I think we should dive deeper into later in the leads chat, probably. The next item here is org member cleanup, keeping org registries, so to speak, lists, owners, files, all of those kinds of things up to date is always a challenge. So the leads, of course, will need to go through that for our own groups. The comms team does this regularly, not regularly, irregularly for our team. Another aspect that makes the org member management difficult is that it's very distributed. Because we have our larger organization, then we have the smaller organizations, and there are different levels of ownership, owner files, and things like that. So we'll need to discuss what levels need to be addressed and by whom, I think, is the thing to figure out here. That sound good, folks?
This mostly talks about org member cleanup, like cleaning up members in the
right.
organization, and as a consequence in the owner's files, not doing like list cleanups exactly. So most of the
Didn't
action
we
items are
implement some new process on this?
the process is old only, but it was too manual before. So I wrote an audit tooling which automates like all of those, gathers the list, and then can send out. Mostly at this point, it is now a process work where we just need to run the audit once more for the last year. So to be precise, like if someone is in the org and has 0 contributions in 2023, they are bound to be removed from the org. So we just need to publish this list somewhere, send out an email to dev@kubernetes.io saying like, oh hey, this is the list, and if you are in the list but you're still contributing actively, but your contributions might not be on GitHub, please do reach out to be added to the exceptions list, and post that we will just remove people from the org. There's a plan. And then updating the owner's file can be an async process, because the owner's file, owner's aliases and owner's files needs to be changed only when they're updated. So there can be an like distributed effort amongst groups to update those files, because anytime you touch those, it will trigger that check whether someone in that list is part of the org or not. So if someone has been removed from one of the owner's files, you will get a failure, like a prow test failure on the PR, that hey, this member is not part of the org, and they can remove them.
So it sounds like comms are needed.
Comms, yes, like the initial email can go out like I can draft it. That's not an issue, but beyond that, I think there needs to be like some distributed comms.
If there are any members from the comms team, we should make sure to put that on their schedule.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is, like, if someone is removed and they are actively part of the Kubernetes, like doing stuff, it is trivial to add them back.
Oh.
Yep.
It's literally everything is in GitHub. It's one PR, one line to make that change. So
also,
if someone,
sorry about for interrupt, but it's also just about like reverting a commit.
Yeah.
Because every removal is in a single commit. Sorry, each removal is in a single commit, to be precise.
Excellent. I'm glad that we were able to go over some important priorities for the SIG ContribEx backlog. We have a minute left in our meeting. So any last minute items that folks want to pop in here before we turn off the recording?
Navaran, do we need to prioritize reviewing this PR as well on the audit tool, or that is not required for doing the pruning activity?
So I feel like we should merge the PR before we use the tool and go through the review. I know that there are some leftover pending comments from you on that PR and possibly from Madhav as well. So I'll take a look at those like before end of week, and then probably like ping you both again for a review. Does that sound good?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. If you need us, you know where to find us on Slack. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording since we are at time.